Gamers, I have not finished Final Fantasy VII Rebirth yet, but I have enough to say about it. I'm about 30 hours in, 35, almost 40, and I'm like, I don't know, halfway through the main story, something like that. This game is absolutely huge, and I honestly couldn't be happier with that. I had a lot of criticisms with Final Fantasy XVI, which released last year, especially because of its side content. The side content in 16 didn't really do it for me. There was too many side quests, and they were too fucking useless. They just weren't very inspired, and they didn't inspire much hope in further side quests. Although some of the side quests at the end of the game were the best in the entire game, that being the Jill and Joshua side quests, which probably should have been part of the main story, or maybe if the side quests were better, I'd be more motivated to do all of them. Whatever, I digress. The thing that struck me immediately about Rebirth, aside from the most obvious things of, holy shit, we're getting a sequel to Final Fantasy VII Remake, because just the idea that this whole thing was going to be a 3-part series gave people a lot of worry back in the day, but it soon turned into genuine, fervent excitement by the end of the first game. When I boot up Rebirth, I would be brought back to the same world with the same characters as Remake. I'd be just as immersed, if not more. That was the most exciting thing in the build-up to this game. But when starting it, I realized the sheer depth of content available. There are tons of minigames, tons of side activities. All of the side quests are robust and have very interesting stories associated with them. And although the open world is massive, it's pretty quick to travel through. And there's only like 5 side quests per area. It really takes a measured approach to quality over quantity, something I felt 16 very much struggled with. I'm really not sure how much I can talk about the story without spoiling it, because I really don't want to. I have been more or less completely blind in spoiler 3. 3? I have more or less been completely blind and spoiler-free this whole time. I did see a few snippets here and there. I may have heard something, but I honestly I think I forgot that at this point. But I'm not going to spoil anyone on anything, because, of course, I haven't even beaten the game. But it is right back where we left off. It is very much an adaptation of the original rather than a straight remake, which is, I mean, it's common knowledge at this point. But I still think it's worth pointing out that when you get to sections that are very much translated from the original game, they're still very, very different, even in subtle ways. Like, a lot of stuff that happens with the Corel region, the stuff with Barrett and Dine is very different, but I didn't necessarily notice it while playing. So, there's familiar places and familiar faces, but the entire crux of the plot is pretty much completely different, which, as a fan of the original, and not so much a fan of straight remakes, I am very much happy about that. So it's clear to see that you can expect the same standard of quality and depth of character that has been throughout all of these games. Honestly, contrary to popular belief, I think Final Fantasy series has been pretty consistent for a very long time. But granted, I haven't actually finished all that many Final Fantasy games in general, so maybe I'll come back to you on that one. But I was very much surprised with how much better the game felt to play. The original was extremely polished, almost an impossible feeling game. But coming into Rebirth, it was like they took everything and perfected it. It's kind of like going from Breath of the Wild to Tears of the Kingdom, which is a comparison I will be bringing up a little bit later as well. But just how much faster and more intuitive everything is. I never quite got the hang of Cloud's defensive mode and his parries, but here it's a lot smoother and it just works so much better in my opinion. It feels more fast, frantic, and intense, and there's so much to experiment with. I've always been a big fan of the materia system, but I feel like when I played Remake, I didn't get as much as I could have out of it. So now I'm really experimenting with materia setups and trying to optimize my characters as much as possible. And it's very, very interesting. The best part about the open world in this game is just that everything you interact with has a cause and effect on other parts of the game. Throughout your journey, you'll be finding shrines to the various summons in the game, and finding those will allow you to fight them in Chadley's battle simulation. Every time you find a shrine, they'll be powered down, so you can fight them at their lowest power, so you can pretty much beat them right when you unlock them. And that will, of course, immediately unlock their summon materia, giving you tangible benefits for exploring in the open world, which is something that I think Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom really struggled with, especially for me, where when I found an item that I didn't know the exact use case for, I would just look at it and say, what the fuck do I do? But there's absolutely nothing like that in this game. Everything has a specific function. And even beyond these straight up side quests, there is a lot of story content in the world exploration. When you find the summons, you get a lot of lore and backstory on the summons and how the people of the world view them. And every time you find these things called proto-relics, you will be greeted to a very silly story, but one that sets up a lot for things that I am very excited to see brought to the forefront at the end of that quest line, reintroducing a very iconic character to the Remake series. Very, very excited about that. Of course, the writing and the voice acting is just as good as it was in the original, and it might be like my favorite voice cast in gaming. I don't know, something about these characters just being brought to life in the way that they are in these games. It just feels so nice. I don't know how to really describe it or get into it with that much depth just going off the cuff. It's like these are characters I've already known for so long from playing the original, but they've been given an added depth and texture that they never had before, and every voice actor just seems to be perfectly suited to their roles, in a way that it seems like I've been hearing their voices in my head from playing the original even long before Remake was even a thing. And this has to be one of the most comfy, silly, and cute games I've ever played. It really feels like the early portions of Xenoblade Chronicles 2, but just bigger. A lot bigger. And of course, it's not without its darker and more serious moments, especially getting deeper into the game. This happy tone is not going to stay here forever. We know that. Of course, everyone who's playing this game, probably, even if they haven't played the original, they know the big spoilers of the original, or at least one specific one. But on the sheer off chance that someone's watching this and doesn't know any spoilers, I'm not going to spoil anything. Even if their game is 27 years old, I'm not going to spoil it. That's my new philosophy here on YouTube. Now, I'm right smack in the middle of Chapter 9 right now, which is the longest chapter out of 14. I don't know why they divided it like that, but Chapter 9 is just super long out of nowhere. I have heard mixed opinions on the ending. Mostly good. Mostly very, very good. But some people aren't feeling it as much as others. And I mean, a lot of people weren't really feeling the remake ending, but I mean, of course, I loved it. People say it's very Tetsuya Nomura-esque, and as a huge Kingdom Hearts nerd myself, I say, bring it on. That just makes it better. I honestly can't see a world where I don't like the ending, but obviously, I'm just a huge Final Fantasy VII cuck and shill, so we'll get there when we get there, I guess. I don't know if I'll make a ending video, a spoiler video, a larger discussion with a couple other people. We'll see if it's on this channel or another channel. We'll see how it goes there. But overall, I am absolutely loving every second of this game so far. It is probably going to end up being my favorite Final Fantasy of all time, and it has the chance to not be topped by other games in the series. I mean, the ones that I haven't played that I'm really looking forward to playing, sooner rather than later, scheduling and all that. I really want to play 9, 12, and Tactics. Those are like on the... They are at the back of my mind at all times. I really need to play those games. But even so, this game is just so phenomenal. And it brings me so much joy. And I don't know if any other game can really top that. I think this game has a big chance of making it into my top 5. But hey, that is a story for another time. So for now, I'd like to get back to the sheer vast world, depth of character, and inspiring story that is Final Fantasy VII Remake. And/or Rebirth. If you like what you see here and you want to see more Final Fantasy content, check out my Final Fantasy 16 video back on the main channel, Brotagonist. And you should also subscribe to a little Brotagonist down here. And as well, if you need even more Final Fantasy content, shout out Nishquick, shout out Archery. They both have amazing Final Fantasy VII videos that you should definitely check out. Anyways, that's about it. Peace.